from Chaotix, and that is a crowd-weaving technology and methodology, pioneer in the brand, product, and social innovation and co-creation space. Sharon has held senior leadership positions and consulted in a variety of domains, including open innovation, software energy, telecommunications, housing, publishing, government, and the arts. So welcome Sharon, please.
Thanks very much. I'll just get my mic on when I get up here. All right. So thanks to everybody who's new in the room, and thanks to those of you who stayed. And I told Kevin I would just say, let's see, how's that? Good level? Okay. So yeah, thanks to the new folks who have come, the folks who have stayed in the room. So what I'd like to talk to you today about is just give you a little glimpse inside one of these co-creative communities that's moved beyond just pure idea submissions and really collaborates with customers at a large global scale to be able to bring new products and actually implement them and bring them to marketplace. And so our company is Chaotix. We don't work exclusively with Lego, but we're going to use the Lego ideas as an example, as a case study to show you what works, and hopefully give you some tips that you can bring home whatever type of co-creativity you're doing. So if you're not doing it on a platform, if you're doing it more face-to-face, or in other forms of methods that you're using inside your organizations. Sort of what the lessons learned are, things we wouldn't do again, but a bunch of things that we recommend to anyone that we work with about how you can make this successful. Because our goal is to always build a community that is thriving and that lasts for years. So one of the things we tend to do when we talk about community is we use it very loosely. I always like to say that we think about everybody who's on a Facebook page who likes a brand and says like, we call them a community. And I think when we really think about what a community is, we know that it builds a culture, that they support each other. There's often friendly competition going on. There's a bit of an economy going on within that community. And those are the types of things that we really aim to create online, because we find that the ideas are better, the solutions that come forward are de-risked and tend to go to market more easily. And also there's no attrition or very little attrition. People can hang around for many, many years in these communities and become part of your virtual team. So our goal is to always have an always-on community in whoever we work with, and move away from kind of idea submission and ranking contests that we actually started experimenting with almost a decade ago. So we'll just get into it here, and I'll definitely leave some time for questions at the end. So the track today is about leadership, culture, and teams. So as I said, I'd like to sort of get behind the velvet rope or behind the curtain a bit on what happens when you have, in Lego's case, 950,000. Our chief operating officer is here today, and she told me we've surpassed that this week. Fans in a community that are creating. What are some of the things that happen that are unexpected and really interesting? And that idea about building a true community and what that looks like. And then, while we'll be talking about Lego today, some people, as a matter of fact, last night I was speaking with a gentleman at the speakers get-together, and he said, yeah, but it's Lego. And I just wanted to show you, we'll look at manufacturing companies, transportation companies, banks. There are many, many industries that this can apply across. And for those of us who are into the concept of super fans or super consumers, I think we realize that every single product category have people that are passionate about that product. It can be anything from staplers, as we probably read about super consumers in the Harvard Business Review article about the topic, all the way certainly to toys. And we're going to be looking specifically at a community today that is not children, but it is designed for adults. So, how many of you admit to being an AFOL? Yay. And you call yourselves AFOLs, right? Adult fans of Lego. So for those of you who are AFOLs, how many of you know what a FFOL is? FFOL. Female fans of Lego. So it's a subset of AFOLs. And in our work with Lego, I said, so who's one of the most esoteric small segments that you really target? And they said definitely female fans of Lego. And for those of you who are interested in it, there's actually a Flickr group called Female Fans of Lego, and they share the creations and things that they do, and they're all adults. We're going to be showing you one of them today who designed a product for Lego. So Lego Ideas, it started as an experiment in Japan with Lego, with a very small group, and they started to see if they could get fans to design products. And like many of you have probably experienced, there were kind of no constraints. You know, design whatever you want and push it forward and then we'll vote. And they realized very quickly that doesn't work so well. So over time, they've come up with some very creative constraints. We all know that, you know, constraints give you better creativity about what the brand likes. It has to be buildable, it has to be safe, it has to have all these criteria. And 950,000 fans to this point have signed up and showed up to be able to do that. And so it's a very vibrant community, and as I said, in 2012, we started working with them. In 2014 was when it came out of beta, and now is a commercial solution. And what Chaotix brings to the table is, and we were talking at the table with someone just before, and we know that technology is never the solution, but it's part of the solution, right, and getting the technology right. But what was talked about before by Kevin is really having that methodology on top of it. So whether it's creative problem solving, design thinking, or any other type of multi-phase creative strategy, what we've done is actually embedded that into software processes. So we don't do just, you know, submit your idea and we vote and then you go forward with the most popular idea. We know that that's a recipe for disaster, especially for very innovative projects. So we always include iteration. We often embrace elements of creative problem solving where we actually get the community to help implement the idea too. And this is done with fans, as I'm going to show you today, but also with employees. And so I took the screen grabs you'll see here just from a couple of weeks ago when we submitted the PowerPoint here to the event. And so Tron is the latest fan-designed product that has come out of this system. And I'm going to show you the lineup around the block to get the two gentlemen from the UK who designed this to come and do signed boxes at a signed event of this. So Tron is the product that was designed, and this is what the front end of the Lego Ideas community looks like. You can see at the bottom here, there is a Power Rangers example that the Lego community managers, there's only a few. One of the things that's often surprising is people think, wow, 950,000 people, how many community managers do they have? Very few. So they're a very small and mighty team, and they have lots of fans who kind of take on the role and help them do that. And of course, our technology has some filtering processes that are available. And so this particular thing is evergreen. This is always open. This is not a challenge that starts and stops. This is always, always on, okay? And on the right-hand side, what you're seeing is, if you went along the nav, you see Discover, How It Works, Submit, and then Contests that are in beta. So there's a new short form of contests that has been implemented now in Lego Ideas, so that if people don't have a brand new idea for a Lego kit, they still can participate in different things. And so we're doing a bunch of experiments with them. We call this the Lego Ideas Test Lab, where we get them to do marketing material. We get them to do, in this case, this is a little contest for what would be a gift with purchase that they might give at Legolands or at Christmas, as an example, when you're purchasing, and getting the community to come together, and then you can see which one won the prize, and it always goes through an expert review. One of the things, since Lego is quite an engineering-focused company and very methodical in what they do, they're very clear up front about communicating how those things are going to be evaluated to the community. And what you find over time is when newbies come into the community and they submit something that everybody else knows is probably not going to be great, people actually help them. They say, you know, you might want to tweak this, or because, you know, if you reread what Lego is kind of looking for, you might want to adapt that or change that. And those criteria that you see in How It Works, they even recommend the type of photography people should do for their projects. And they give lots of case studies, lots of examples, so that people are set up to be successful in the community. You'll notice in the nav across the top, there's also community and blog. So one of the things that's really important to us is that any co-creative community, we feel that the brand has to get out of the way. You have to let people connect on the platform and off the platform and share and be able to develop friendships and even work in private work groups sometimes, so that there's a regular cadence of people coming back and checking in. So it's not just submit your idea, see if it's, you know, popular, and off it goes. And then the blog, we'll talk about that in a moment when we compare what's being done here. We often get asked, how does this kind of compare to social media? And we'll give you a bit of an example of kind of how that's different. So we'll just go through this, but I'll be happy to answer any sort of questions. By the way, is anybody here a Lego Ideas member? Any of you AFOLs? Sign up now. It's free and fun. Go for it. We got to get over that 1 million mark. Help us. Okay, so what actually happens inside the community? So these are some of the tips that we've noticed that are specific to the Ideas platform. So trust drives participation. So trust in a few ways. When the brand experience is consistent, it doesn't look suddenly when you go into an ideation community that you have now entered the DOS zone where I'm given radio buttons and being asked to answer a bunch of surveys. It feels like you're fully in the branded experience. And certainly Lego did this far before the internet was invented. Any event they did, their store experience, their playground experience, et cetera, it's a consistent experience. It's important because people trust what's going on. They trust that their data is going to be dealt with privately, and they continue that trusted relationship. And so people participate. They participate so much that sometimes we have to throttle things and close them down earlier, right, Shannon? I know we had one event where, one activity where there was so much participation, we actually shut it down early and started another one because there were just thousands and thousands of submissions. And so people are just eager for that new phase to be announced. Advocacy up and risk down. So one of the things that we definitely, Kevin was talking about it, is, you know, ideas are great, it's the implementation that's important. What's really great about the type of process when you can actually involve a group of people, whether they're customers or employees, in this type of an innovation process, is they want this product to succeed. They want the brand to succeed and the product to succeed. So they advocate on platform, off platform, they buy the product, and to the point where every product that has come off of this platform has been sold out at some point. Right? And so it's really de-risking the process. The other thing too is they've reduced a typical time to develop a brand new kit for Lego is approximately 2 years. In this process, it's reduced it down to 6 months. And every product has been a success. So I know the product managers that I've worked with in my career, you know, music to your ears, when you can build in advocates, test the product. In some cases, some of our clients even test beta and alpha product right out with the power users, and then they become advocates, and then they buy. So it's a really beautiful kind of a system or a loop system where people are supporting things. Variety drives creativity. So variety has to happen in 2 ways. So there's lots of good independent research on how do you get, you know, that objective creativity in those products that you're trying to design for breakout products. And by creativity, we mean the classic definition, you know, of novelty, usefulness, and kind of the integrity of the design. And we went to the literature and looked at a lot of the research that said the #1 factor that will drive creativity is ensuring you have task variety in what you do. So again, this is on a platform or if you're doing it physically. And by that we mean you can't just go through the exact same 4 steps or 3 steps or however many steps they are and make people feel like it's Groundhog Day. And I mean, we noticed this in some really beautiful platforms that have beautiful graphic design. But after the 6th month, when you're presented with the exact same style of a wicked problem that we're going to save society or design something, but it feels like Groundhog Day, you get that attrition. So we really have learned to take a publisher or editorial approach. And when we say variety, we mean variety of task within the process. So there has to be, you know, think of a newspaper. There have to be some big, heavy loaded things, and there have to be some lighter things as you go along. So the equivalent of, you know, crossword puzzles and comics in the newspaper, and then some big tasks and cognitive load and problem solving, so that people can have a variety of things. But also between these programs that typically last a few weeks when they're time bound, you want to make sure that it's not always the same topic. So we try to change it up where we're getting people to contribute product improvement, maybe naming a product, maybe coming up with some ideas for a new category, and then maybe creating some marketing material on the next one. So there's always something sort of fresh, new, and going on, and that's why you can actually have these communities that last for years. As I mentioned, Lego, excuse me? Oh, I had a little echo that happened there. Investing in strategy and resources. So I touched on this, but LEGO has a small but mighty team. You know, there's about a half a dozen people that are full-time dedicated to working on this. We've seen idea contests where you have to have dozens and dozens of community managers to making sure there's nothing said that's inappropriate on that platform. But when you invest in these resources and you actually build a community, you find that over time a culture is built and very, very little of that type of thing, negative thing happens. And so the community managers are more there to publish stuff, to talk with people, to answer some questions, and the community takes on a culture of its own, and ambassador people pop up in the community and take on those roles. So your customers take on those roles too. Strength of weak ties. So for those of you who are maybe systems theory aficionados, we know that it's important that the strong voices on those power users and those advocates in the community, that they get focused on and they make sure that they're happy. But we also know that when you get into these larger systems, it's important that the weaker ties, like the ties off of your platform, or people that have their own fan communities that are not run, in this case, by LEGO, you have to make sure that you also involve them. So building in sharing, sometimes celebrating really cool products that are not going to be commercialized, but making sure you're pointing out and maybe giving, using some gamification and doing some surprise prizes or recognition for people who are doing very creative non-commercial things, and making sure that you're giving a variety of rewards, both monetary and social, that are happening. And LEGO was an expert at this again before the internet. When you see those big LEGO Fest communities that happen, those are not run by LEGO, those are run by fans. Right? And LEGO helps them to do that. They'll sometimes send people and they'll send free product for them to build those big sculptures. So they really get this right. And what you'll find is people who tend to win, as in their product gets commercialized, they are really evangelizing off-platform on different social media and groupware things, and they're bringing people into the platform. So they understand that there's this ecosystem. And then rewards and recognition. LEGO specifically, they really underestimated just how much you AFOLs wanted to go to Denmark and meet the engineers and go, this is the coolest job in the world, right? Or go to Enfield in Connecticut, where they also have a really cool place. We were just talking about that last night. And so yes, the people who build these get 1% of the royalties. Pretty cool. But here's another thing they also get. They get to be a rock star in Denmark, right? And this gentleman here with the thing over his head, his name, I'm just going to get his name right, Kevin Sato. He designed the LEGO Yellow Submarine, if you've seen that out in the stores. And he is literally a rocket scientist. So he's an aerospace engineer. By the way, we're Canadian, and he's from Toronto, so we were really proud that a Canadian got selected on this one. And the other three gentlemen, they're the people he was dying to meet. They are LEGO designers, and this is in Lund, where head office is for LEGO in Denmark. So this was after, by the way, and I'll show you a photo in a moment, he got to go to Liverpool and actually do a signing, and he had throngs of people lined up for him to sign this LEGO Yellow Submarine and to get this going. So this is the type of thing, whatever the brands are that you're working with, or if you are a brand, don't underestimate how much those super consumers, those Uber fans, those proactive consumers, they want to get inside the velvet rope and meet the people who design the things that they love. And LEGO didn't used to do this. They just started doing this a few years ago, and it's gone really well. I'll just show you another quick example of an unlikely rock star. So this is, actually I was talking with the folks over at Brown. This is a Brown University alum. Her name is Maya Weinstock, and she's the designer of the Women of NASA kit. And she's actually sitting right beside Margaret Hamilton, who headed up the software program for the Apollo. And Maya came up with the idea to design women who have made significant contributions through history to NASA. And to the right is an MIT grad, and she's actually working in Denmark, but she's the LEGO designer. Because once the customer designs the fan product, they actually then work directly, the LEGO designers take it on and make sure that it has the engineering, so to speak, behind the LEGO build, that it's fully commercialized. And I'm just going to show you a couple more pictures of the two of them. So here they are in Liverpool and in New York. And there's Maya and there's Kevin, and they are signing their products. So that one was in Manhattan. The two gentlemen who are standing with her are two of the community moderators. So we know Tim very well since the beginning of LEGO Ideas, the gentleman on the left. He's been a dedicated resource working for LEGO on the LEGO Ideas team. And then I just wanted to show you this. Remember I showed you Tron? Well, this is the lineup just last month. This is Leicester Square, the LEGO store in London. And these are people lined up around the block to get a signed version of this product. And it's two young fellows, they call themselves the Brick Brothers. And they have these fan-based websites. And they built that, came up with the concept for that really cool Tron product. And these guys, they had to stay open extra hours for all the people that had come to get it signed. So they had them stay a little bit longer. Okay, so switching tracks, I will come back to LEGO in a moment. I just wanted to answer two really classic questions that we often get for people that are beginning this co-creative exercise. And it helps, especially if you're evangelizing either with a customer or internally. You know, so how is co-creation different from crowdsourcing? And I just want to check my time here. 10 minutes, perfect. How is it different from crowdsourcing? So, you know, crowdsourcing, Jeff Howe came up with the term. And crowdsourcing, I always think of it as like outsourcing to a group of strangers, right, who have volunteered. And it, not always this, but a group of volunteers, unspecified volunteers. And it can work really well for lots of things, right? Like for Kickstarter, right? That's classic crowdsourcing. You come up with a problem, hey, I like some money, I'd like a solution, could you give me the money? Or you've got a particular problem, we think of solver communities, right? I have this technical problem, does anyone have the solution, right? And that can work really well. But you often think of them as a panel or a group of unidentified people, and it tends to be sporadic. A problem is posed, the answer is given, it is solved, we start all over again. Whereas co-creativity is more of a we process, and the metaphor I like to think of is if you have, and by the way, you will get a PDF of this presentation, so if everybody wants it, you're welcome to have it. I think of this, you know, this sort of is the tennis game, crowdsourcing. We throw the idea over and it comes back. We throw another idea over and a solution comes back. But imagine you have 950,000 people on your virtual team on your side wanting to make sure these products are successful. So we move beyond, you know, I've seen the same data about product failure. In some categories, it can be as low as 50%. They don't have that many products that come out, but 90 to 95% is good. I know fast-moving consumer goods, they estimate that 90% of all products in their first year fail. They don't meet I think it's a $15 million retail sales mark. And so we say it's collaborative. People are helping each other make better products. They're solving problems together. And it's about that community. It's that even if you're not solving a problem, you just feel like hanging out and helping other people, giving answers, participating in activities. So it becomes this collaborative, always-on community. The other thing that happens when it's always on is if you, say, ran an innovation program and you're actually using some of that data and you've come up with a question, well, guess what? Your community is still there. You can go back and verify with them or refine an idea or test an idea with them. And so it's always important to have public activities and some private activities where people could submit private feedback. The other question we often get is, how is it different from a social media brand page? And the thing I thought about was, I'm really glad I did this before Mark Zuckerberg testified, because this was developed about 2 weeks ago before he was on there. But we definitely know that whatever the social media platform, their algorithms rule. You post, you pay, and you pray it shows up in someone's news feed, right? There are data privacy issues, as we knew and have learned more about. And that the platforms, while they do have some functionality, they certainly don't have the ability to do a design thinking iteration. So something that happens in one phase of your design pops up in the next phase of your design, and people can maybe do a ranking or a sorting for you. And that's kind of seamless, and that you can continually loop back and help and post even new versions of your ideas and keep the old versions there. And then typically the way people get feedback to the posts are shares and likes. And so in this world, as you can imagine, you are driving, the brand is driving the bus, right? You control direct engagement. It's secure. You can analyze every bit of unstructured and structured data when you're doing photo elicitation, when you're asking people to do combinatorial things. All of that data is there. And one of the things Lego said was, it's amazing that we get these products. That's the gold. But when we actually see over a year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, the discussions and the behavior and the trends, and we analyze them, that's really the platinum, right? Because they've actually discovered a new market segment in the Lego Ideas community that they didn't have before. And that's the type of thing that you're not going to get, as an example, from a focus group or things that are more sporadic. Okay? And so what industries are these best for? I have a feeling that my mic is sort of going on and off, right? Okay. You're good. Okay. So what industries are co-creation best suited for? But I'm not Lego, right? How does it work for me? So I'm going to show you a matrix, and I'm going to just go through the industries, and then I'm just going to highlight a couple of them that are quite different, so you can see kind of how that works. So if we just look at the industry category on the far left-hand side here, we can see manufactured goods like Rust-Oleum, automotive like Ford, transportation like American Airlines, mobile telephony like HTC, banking. We've actually worked with quite a few banks, and we know fintech is being so disruptive and the models are changing so much. And it's an excellent forum because I was actually talking with someone who works in the financial industry just at our table. You have so many frontline people interacting with customers, and you can have that direct communication, whether it's B2B or B2C. And then the last one, Procter & Gamble. I'm sure most people who've worked in this industry have worked at one point with Procter & Gamble. But the example I have here is actually an employee community with their consumer marketing knowledge group, where they actually had their global CMK group competing for part of the R&D fund to come up with really interesting technologies that they could bring in. In one example, it was from a company that built technology to help train tennis players, and they actually brought it in and used it for designing retail spaces and commercial shopping spaces, so that was pretty cool. Rust-Oleum will point it out. So Rust-Oleum does not have 950,000 people. It has thousands of people in its community. It's only in the USA, and they use them for different things. One of the things that is awesome is how, we always think about people take that product home, how do they use it, right? As was said earlier, that's one of the greatest sources for innovation. How are they hacking or customizing my product? And so this is really what Rust-Oleum does significantly. New use cases, messaging and display design, maybe packaging improvements. They've named some colors and some products, and marketing content. But while they're doing this, they're also noticing, I'll just give you one example, that people were talking a lot about glitter. Glitter, glitter, they were adding glitter. And so Rust-Oleum has come out with a whole new line of wall paint and spray paint that has glitter in it. So those of you who want to have glitter walls at home, you can now do that with Rust-Oleum. But people were doing it and hacking it, right? And it's come up with a whole new product line. The other extreme example, I'd say HTC, where they have a very small community of just a few thousand people, invitation only. You literally have to get a golden ticket. And then you get to beta test products, they do brand evangelism, they show it, and go-to-market content. So some of the folks who won their go-to-market photo contest were able to have their content featured in Times Square. All right, so our top 10, just as a send-off here, practical lessons. Whether you're doing 950,000 or 500 people, these are the things we would recommend that you do. So that seamless brand experience. Really think about how it feels to go from your amazing website or retail experience and then to go into something that looks like a 1995 survey question, right? Or a really bad SharePoint implementation, right? They're good SharePoint implementations, but most of them are bad, right? I say SharePoint is where all good ideas go to die. They're just really labeled and organized, right? True communities need time to mature. So you cannot add water and create a community. For those of you that are really interested in this aspect of it, I would get you to turn to the theory of community, sense of community. It's an actual theory where they study when do some physical communities thrive and others not thrive. And this is what we've tried to apply. And there's some really basic rules about what you have to do so that you get that 8-year community. Design variety, we talked about this. Within your program, 2 minutes, thank you. Within your program and across your programs. Think about how that customer or employee feels every day coming back to another problem, but it feels like it's the same old thing, as opposed to something that feels as vibrant as the front cover of a magazine and what's going to be inside it. That editorial publishing approach, letting them know what's coming next, right? Making sure your questions are creative, so matching that market research or product development with really great copywriting is important. So where do you get the best ideas at focus groups for innovation? Water cooler, bathroom, parking lot. What people say after they've been officially, having their Hawthorne effect bias showing up at the table, right? So here we listen to what they're just chatting about, for sure. Don't rely just on leaderboards and points. So if you're just getting into the world of gamification, I would strongly recommend a process called octalysis. So just remember octo and gamification. 8 ways that you can design really great gamification that is beyond who's leading and how many points do they have. Because again, over time, this gets gamed, and it actually, depending on the type of innovation you're trying to do, can drive people away from your community. So just an example, you have to think about surprising and delighting with unexpected gifts and things when people come into the community. It's a really great book written by a researcher, so it can give you some great tips. Multi-phase creativity workflows, so please, the end of the drive-by idea contest. Right? You will not sustain that over time. People want to build things together. And whether it's design thinking, creative problem solving, Lego serious play, what we've done is we've actually designed those multi-phase things into software, so it can become part of the culture of the community. I won't belabor this one, but use a scorecard to pick your favorites, whether it's something as sophisticated as was shown by Kevin before, or it is something that was sophisticated as Kevin was before, or it is something like a Delphi method. You could do that. I just have 2 more points, and then I'm done. And then involve the community. So if any of you have done creative problem solving, you know that unlike design thinking, there are 2 more steps in creative problem solving: implementation and reflection. Get your customers to help you implement. Do you have an idea for a good channel? Do you have an idea for pricing? Can you help us put together some marketing content? And then last but not least, staff accordingly. This is not something that you can do off the side of your desk if you're going to take it seriously. So again, small but mighty team, half a dozen people at Lego, but it's not half a person with another full-time job. All right? And so 2 minutes over time, sorry about that. But so since we have lunch and no one after us, does anyone have any questions?
Well, I think you can do questions one-off, because I think we have to keep on schedule.
Okay.
So if you guys do have questions, I'm sure Sharon will stick around after to answer some questions. Just to give you some housekeeping.
Okay.
Lunch will be in the exhibit hall.